Howdy, philosophers. I have a book out, well, a book that I'm promoting. I have tons of books out, but a book that I'm promoting, especially this week until the 15th, it's free on Amazon. You can download it to any device and read it. It's a collection of essays on Native American issues. So, in the little blurb that I write about it, I say that the personal is philosophical. And how does that um, make me different than Arthur Schopenhauer? Okay, so here's the thing. I really dislike Schopenhauer. I realize he is in vogue right now among some. But what he did, according to what I've read, is try to generalize himself, apply himself to you, make you into him. All right, so that's his personal, that is philosophical. He wants you to have his neurosis of extreme pessimism and hatred and, you know, hating, hating humanity. Um, I guess if you accept that, you accept that, but why? I mean, to me, Schopenhauer is not even a philosopher. But when I say the personal is philosophical, what I mean is that in your life, you may come across things that raise an issue. So, I was a young mother, and my daughter, and I knew her father was Choctaw, and so she is Choctaw. Um, but it didn't really hit me until she entered socialization with other children and teachers in school. Now, this is like 25 years ago, okay? I'm not bearing any hard feelings, but it made me think of things. And as a philosopher and a philosophy student at the time, I was full of questions, um, and being examining actually many things. As is well known, I have a variety of interests, a few that I'm, an expert on, but I'm really interested in a lot of stuff. So, what happened in my case? My daughter earned around November in school something, and I don't know what exactly, but they were coloring pages in kindergarten, and talking about Native Americans. And she said to me, I don't want to be Indian anymore because they aren't smart and never did anything good. And I was like, bitch. And for 25 years, I've been saying, bitch, because none of that is true at all. In fact, and I'm not even rewriting history, there's tons of intellectual, historically, and currently Native Americans from all kinds of tribes. We are learning now in science that a lot of things Native Americans thought that we thought were um, dumb are actually true. Like that plants, many like trees, lots of trees, they can communicate, do chemical signals underground through their roots. So if one gets hurt, it's like, help, I'm hurt, you guys watch out. And then they can, the other trees can address it accordingly while this one heals. Or we know, for example, that dolphins have a culture. We know, for example, that what else? Oh, water. Water is life. I mean, that's an old saying among the Lakota. Water is life, and we know that now. They looked for water on the moon. They looked for water on Mars because it's a sign of life. We figure you can't really live without it as a biological living human being or anything biological. So anyway, there's a lots of things. And so they did do smart things, often smarter than us in historically. And currently, we're worried about climate change and environmental issues. And you know what? Most of the biodiversity in the world is in indigenous nations. They are great caretakers of the earth. And yes, a lot of them do eat meat. You can do both. Um, and so, I see a lot of regular Western philosophers going right along, just saying, la ti da, we will solve these problems. We are these scientists with PhDs. Good, there's Native American or indigenous generally scientists with PhDs, and then there are the regular people who have been passed on the tradition. And so why did I say the personal is the philosophical? Because in your life, I've learned all of this just by giving a beautiful birth to a beautiful person who, you know, was treated badly in school. And I don't know, probably in other places too. And as a mother, you know, I love my child. And so I'm not trying to say, you guys, be me, like Schopenhauer. I'm trying to raise issues that came about in my private life, actually. And, saying, you know what? Maybe we should be doing something different. Maybe we can discuss this among colonists and Native Americans and really focus on listening to Native Americans and other indigenous people because you know what? It seems like for a lot of things they were right. And you know what? They have not been listened to at all. And I'll leave you with this. My mom, I've mentioned, is kind of an expert on General George Armstrong Custer, who died at the Battle of Greasy Grass, also known as the Battle of Little Bighorn. There's some graphic things I'm going to say right now, so you might want to have a trigger warning. Alright, so when Custer was killed, they knew, the Native Americans knew who he was. They knew who he was. He had a reputation. And when he died, after they did a variety of things that you may think are graphic and wrong. For example, they poked his ears in. They poked things in his ears and, may have mutilated his genitalia um, and took things off his body, like maybe a button or, something like that. But you know what they said when they did that? They said, you need to learn how to listen better. And it reminds me, what's his name? I just had a brain flip. Sorry, I've been getting cancer treatment this year. So, Jonathan Lear died recently, and he wrote a book that's well known, apparently, controversial in Native studies and other areas, but apparently well accepted in philosophy, but called Radical Hope. So, what Jonathan Lear says is that um, Plenty-Coo listened to the chickadee. Okay, well, good. How about we listen to the Lakota, the Cherokee, the Navajo, the Seneca? That is what that meant many, many years ago when Custer died and his ears were like poked in and like they damaged his ears. You need to listen better, motherfucker. You need to listen better. And so for many years, I've been very quiet and listening to minority voices, such as Indigenous people, especially them, because that is my family, my heart. And from that, I write these essays. And, I don't say that I don't know that I'm incredibly wrong or right. But, what I'm trying to do is bring a discussion about that, look, for 25 years, I've been quiet. I've been listening. I asked my professors, I never raised my hand in class. Why? They may be telling me something, the professors or other students may be telling me something that's incredibly important for me to learn. And I don't want to raise my hand and interrupt them. I need to write this shit down that they're talking about. And so yeah. I mean, it helps that I'm an INTP, so I just am quiet anyway, usually, in big groups. But I've been listening to the Native Americans. So whatever the chickadee is, I've seen some. There's some chickadees that come to my house, but and I, listen to them. But and they have a good song. But listening to people of other cultures, what some call the other, um, is what I'm about. And that is how the personal is the philosophical. I'm not saying, and I never do say, like even in my Descartes book, that you must do this, that you have to be like me, or anything like that. I'm not trying to Xerox myself like Arthur Schopenhauer, okay? I'm looking for discussion. I'm looking for thought. We major in thinking, we get PhDs in thinking. Um, you know, let's do it then. Let's do it. And I'm sitting cross legged, not Indians.